Usually today is the day where I do the reviews of those games that is simulated on FIFA 20 of the MLS match week, but I'm going to do that tomorrow, and instead today I'm going to do something that I haven't done in a week and a half, which is the news of the week. And believe it or not, in the last couple of days we actually had some interesting news to talk about, and this is unlike last week where I basically had not a lot of news topic, and pretty much all the news topic that I had to talk about was related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas this week, we actually had some rumor of players either coming to MLS or players that used to play in MLS before going to Europe, and now they're thinking about coming back to MLS, and they're thinking of coming back to MLS to not just any team, but the team that they started their career in MLS. But before we actually talk about that, unfortunately, this is pretty much the segment of the news of the week episode that I have to mention news that's related to the pandemic. So if you don't want to hear that, I suggest maybe move about 6 or 7 minutes into the video before I actually talk about something that's not related to the COVID-19 pandemic. But the first news that we're going to talk about is that the National Independent Soccer Association, known as NISA, has officially canceled their spring season, and I don't think this is a big surprise considering, they were thinking of having a fall season, and that there was just no way that they can finish their spring season in time if they were going to continue with the fall season. And speaking of the fall season, they're thinking that they are actually going to start this fall season on time, which is going to be in the middle of August, which to me, yeah, we'll see about that. We'll see how this whole pandemic is going to be look like in the next couple of months, because there's really not a lot of data that suggests that this thing will just blow over and that everything will be back to normal and that the league would restart their season. Like, unless if they're thinking that they're going to restart the league and they're going to do something that most sports league is going to do, which is play behind closed doors, then that would make sense. But if they're thinking about playing these games but there's going to be fans attending it, I don't know about that. The fact that they can do that in the fall season and had that happen in the middle of August. But we shall see how that is going to go, and we'll see how this pandemic will continue for these next couple of months and whether if it's going to get a little bit better. Don Gabbert says everything is on table in terms of format once MLS return, and I am actually going to think about making a video talking about how MLS is going to look like once they come back from this whole pandemic situation. I mean, I kind of mentioned it throughout most of the news of the week, talk about the different format that could happen, but I think I'm gonna eventually have to make a video talk about these different formats and how it will work out once the league does come back. But Don Gabbert, the commissioner, says that he thinks everything is on the table, which, he kind of said it in a very general way, but I won't be surprised the way that he's saying is that expect there's going to be some crazy things that's going to be happening, and expect that even some crazy things like we're potentially going to go into a World Cup format, or we're going to have games in late December in the northeastern part of the U.S. That is still going to be a possible. Okay, maybe that was a little bit of a stretch, but, he's basically trying to be general and trying to give fans at least some optimism that things are going to get back, and that once MLS does return, it's going to definitely look something that is not going to be similar to what we had in the previous season. FIFA could allow 5 substitute per game to help congestion issues. So in case if Don Gabbert decided to do what those European League have been discussing, that we're going to have games that is going to be taking place almost every single day, or at least every 2 or 3 days, then right now FIFA said that because if teams are going to be playing that many times throughout the next couple of weeks, and obviously you cannot have a team that can play that many times without having some fatigue issue, that FIFA basically just stepped in and saying that we're going to kind of relax in terms of the free substitute to situation in that each club can actually sub out half of their squad in a game, which it's definitely a good idea considering, as I said, the whole congestion issue, and that you just cannot keep a squad fresh throughout the next couple of weeks if you play like every single day or every 2 or 3 day or so. Although my interesting thing about, or my takes in terms of how FIFA potentially could allow 5 sub per game, is this going to be something that is going to be permanent, or is that just going to be something that's only happening during this pandemic, and that we're going to go back to the whole free substitute situation. Also, they didn't mention anything about how one of the substitution out of the 5 subs per game could potentially, or when they allow these 5 subs per game, they could also have a situation where if a player does get substituted because of a concussion issue, it would not count toward one of the substitute. I mean, that's been something that I think a lot of people has want FIFA to eventually employ. And although they do allow an extra sub, and that now if you do have these extra sub, teams might be more reluctant to actually make the substitution if they feel like a player is injured. But I feel like FIFA could have done better and say that, in addition to having 5 subs per game to help fix congestion, we can also have a rule where if a player does suffer a concussion, then he can get substitute off, and that substitute will not count the 5 substitute that each team will have per game. MLS training moratorium now extended to May 15, which is not a big surprise because, once the league decided that they are going to extend their suspension time, most likely the training moratorium is going to be the same. And I won't be surprised if the league decide to extend their suspension of when they're going to come back. The training moratorium is once again going to be moved, and it's going to extend it to another day. Now, USL Championship is eyeing for a possible July restart, but most likely won't participate in the US Open Cup. They didn't say anything about whether or not when they do restart in July, are they going to have any fans. Most likely, they probably won't have any fans, and it will be interesting to see how the USL Championship, in terms of its formats, is going to like. But they all, as I said, they said that they would most likely won't participate in US Open Cup. And I just feel like right now, as much as I know the US Open Cup want to boost the fact that they have not had a single year where they had to be stopped because of any situation like a pandemic like this, maybe this might be finally the year where they're unfortunately going to have to stop. I mean, with the way that most of these teams are going to get back to their season, and most likely they're going to have just a congested kind of season from now to the end of the year, there is no way in the world you can even squeeze in the US Open Cup in terms of these league that is having a congested season. So I'm assuming most likely the US Open Cup will not be played this year, and that this will be the first time probably in US Open Cup history, if I remember, that they actually decided to cancel the competition. I'm not quite sure that they actually did it during World War II and World War I, but if they actually did that, at least this will be the first time where the US Open Cup has been canceled in peacetime and not war-related issue. Now, moving away from the whole COVID-19 pandemic news that's related to MLS to some crazy rumors that has happened. Well, depending on if you think these are crazy or the fact that these are actually rumors that make sense, although I think one of them does make sense in terms of what I'm about to report. Gonzalo Higuain, James Rodriguez, and Juan Mata have all rumored to come to MLS, with Gonzalo Higuain has been rumored to come to the Galaxy, and apparently they said that the reason why he's going to go to the Galaxy is because Guillermo Scaleto has some relationship with Higuain, and most likely with that connection, that's why he ends up with the Galaxy. James Rodriguez has been rumored to go to Inter Miami, which, I know before you make the joke about how Inter Miami is literally linked with everybody and linked with all the superstar kind of players around the world, this would make sense with the way that, James Rodriguez is a pretty well-known name, and even though it might not be kind of like a Luis Suarez and Antoine Griezmann kind of signing, at least, having James Rodriguez there, I think he's going to be very beneficial to this team, and that I think he could most likely be the goal scorer of the team. Juan Mata, that's an interesting one, although I won't be surprised if he's going, like, out of all three of these players that most likely is going to come to MLS, Juan Mata might potentially be one of them, because his day with Man United is potentially going to be numbered. I think his contract is going to expire pretty soon, and once his contract expires, I don't think Man United is going to re-sign him, and most likely he does want to come to MLS, and we'll see which team potentially could pick him in MLS and where he does land. But the other two, with Gonzalo Higuain and James Rodriguez, yeah, it will be interesting to see if that does work, especially the James Rodriguez one, where I think he still have a couple of years left in him playing in Europe before he does come to MLS, and by then we don't know whether or not if he even think about coming to MLS, or he's just going to stay in Europe and finish his career in Europe. Now, Victor Vasquez have hint a possible return to MLS and hint that he is going to go back to Toronto FC. And he's not the only player that used to play with their former club and think about coming back to its former club. DeAndre Yedlin also says that he is 100% sure that he will return to MLS and play with the Seattle Sounders. And technically, I should put 100% with a quotation mark, because anytime when you hear a player says they're 100% sure that they will return to something or a team that they used to play, most of the time it doesn't actually come to fruition. But the Victor Vasquez one, I can definitely see that come in. I mean, I know if Vasquez does come back to TFC, most likely he's not going to be starting with this team, because they already have Pozuelo, who was supposed to be the guy that replaced Vasquez, and I think most likely he's going to be coming off the bench as a super sub for Toronto, and that definitely wouldn't be a bad option to have Pozuelo coming off, and then you bring in Vasquez as your super sub. The DeAndre Yedlin one is kind of interesting. I mean, I guess as many people have heard about how Newcastle is potentially going to be taken over by a couple of Qatari kind of richness coming to their club and do a financial takeover. Most likely he thinking that he might not have any role of that club if the takeover does happen, and Newcastle United is just going to spend so much money to try to replace some of the deadwood player that they had. And unfortunately, Yedlin is kind of one of those deadwood player at Newcastle. He hasn't really enjoyed a lot of success with the team. So, but we'll see. We'll see whether or not if he does come back to MLS, and that he will definitely think about joining the Seattle Sounders. Because remember, if you decided to get a player that used to play in MLS, you got to make sure you get the number one allocation order. And for TFC, I think they probably will try to do something to shoot themselves back up the allocation order. I mean, they already are now near the bottom of the allocation order, because they already spent it by getting Laurent Simon. And Seattle, I'm not quite sure where they are exactly in the allocation order, but they're gonna have to potentially find a way to get themselves at the top of the allocation order in terms of getting these players. So yeah, we'll see how it's gonna go, and whether or not if this could happen in the near future. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys hit a like, smash that subscribe button. As usual, let me know in the comments below what do you think of these news on the board, and if there's any news that I didn't mention on the board, let me know in the comments below, and I'll try my best to react to it. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.